No one responding to this man's cries for help. As he's held down to the ground, an officer kneeling with his knee on the back of the man's neck. He says that he cannot breathe.
At the end of the day, they get to go home and be with their families. Shiana does not have a father.
Protesters gathered outside Minneapolis on Saturday for the 5th day in a row. Floyd's death, peaceful protests have mixed with looting and rioting at night.
Taylor, David McAtee, and other African Americans across the country who have been killed by law enforcement, a Louisville mother wanted to make a stand. Justice. It was where a balloon release took place to honor Breonna Taylor's life. Thousands packed downtown Louisville as Taylor's family
right now for Breonna Taylor, if you could, one time. Look at that unity right there.
For my baby, and I'm here for George because I want justice for him.
We have been rallying since June, but we must keep the momentum going.
Despite the amazing experience I have had in the school district, I feel that it is important to also acknowledge the ignorance I have witnessed and still witness today. As I have previously mentioned, Southbury is clearly not very diverse.
In honor of George Floyd and in a step against racism, specifically here in Southbury, we're especially proud locally. So maybe I'll be here first on timer for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. You just join me in doing.
Rallies are a part of a new social justice initiative called Justice Southbury. Justice Southbury will be made up of those local residents who are willing to devote some portion of our time and efforts to issues of equality, compassion, and tolerance for all.
I'm Julie Richardson, and I've been a resident of Southbury my whole life, which is 19 years.
Hi, I'm Catherine LaBelle. I've been living in Southbury for, I believe, 13 years.
Hi, I'm Chloe Williams, and I've been living in Southbury for I think 7 years now.
Hi, my name is Claire Eastwood. I've been living in Southbury for about 4 years.
My name is Lacey Marshall, and my family and I have lived here in Southbury for the past 11 years. We moved here back in 2009.
I'm Wisnefsky. I'm 17 years old. I've lived in Southbury, Connecticut for 10 years.
Hello, I'm Tomas Reyes. I'm 18, and I've been living in Middlebury since 2007, so been in town for 13 years.
My name's Ben Bernard, and I've lived in Southbury for 19 years.
Well, I think especially recently we've been doing a lot. Of course, we've been donating, signing petitions. We've been going to a lot of protests. We've planned the protest here.
Together and make history. Sign petitions, donate money, educate yourself and others. Make suggestions to our school district. We need to create a local and national environment that is proactive in reforming the systems that enable racism and cause harm and death to Black people. I believe that this is possible.
Made the mural, but I think one of the most important things is talking with people and educating people, because I think that's such a huge issue here. People are scared of this conversation and they don't want to talk about it. So I think one of the best things to do is just start that conversation.
Everyone was at the cathedral. We had to wear our masks because of COVID. Then we started marching. We marched to town hall and back. There were a lot of Trump supporters and a lot of Black Lives Matter supporters. Some even gave the finger. Overall, I loved the experience. I loved chanting Black Lives Matter with everyone. It made me feel strong.
Not just me and Catherine, but a lot of people around us and in our friend group we know it's a big issue. And I've wanted to protest for a while, and again, as I said, it's like kind of hard for me to go out into like bigger cities to protest. And it started off with just like, oh, let's just protest by ourselves, kind of like on like a street, like maybe Main Street. And then we kind of just decided to make it like a bigger protest, like and let people come. So we made like a poster type thing that we reposted on social media, and people kept reposting it, and it was on Facebook and Instagram, and I think the word got out, and then a lot of people joined, and yeah.
Well, I lead a weekly protest, and those have been really getting a lot of support from the community, a lot of hate from the community, but it's been getting a lot of widespread action. The biggest thing was getting the word out. It was mostly just I had to inform the police that we were there, just, even though we have a right to protest, just so that there wasn't any discrepancies, no one could say, we're not allowed to be there, just to show, there's going to be people here, so just wanted to let you know. But yeah, the big thing was letting people know that we'd be there, because, it's obviously I would stand on that street corner by myself. I'd do that every Sunday, but it's obviously better for the cause to show that there's a lot of people there and to show the community that, this is not just some random high schooler thinking of this crazy idea. This is actually a very prevalent cause, and there's a lot of people in Southbury who believe that. So again, social media was my saving grace. It was, I just kind of posted the flyer on my story, had some friends do it, posted on Facebook, and the first day there was 250 people that showed up. So I don't really know how that happened, but it was really the social media that, I don't know how I would have done that without social media like that, so really.
That work of figuring out what caused it.
Police brutality. There were 24,800,000 visits.
And we're also trying to move into the next step, which is going to the Board of Selectmen, talking to them, demanding that they do something, because so far they have been silent, besides Mike Rosen, who's the one Democrat on the Board of Selectmen. And so they've been silent about this issue. It's been going on. We're going to be doing our 9th protest today, actually, and they haven't released anything, so we're just hoping to at least get a statement and then go from there, because we need them to address the fact that there's a racism problem in Southbury.
I've never felt any different until now. I've never experienced racism or have I. I think we're here.
And then after they address it, hopefully we can go from there and start addressing how we can fix this problem. I've also been working with the diversity coordinator at Region 15 to try to either change the curriculum or add to the curriculum so that there's more widespread education about Black voices so that we can amplify them starting in our schools, because that's, racism is taught, so we don't want that to be taught in Region 15.
So the protest I organized back in June, I think it was, the focus of that protest was education instead of just a broad Black Lives Matter protest. So we were just trying to educate whoever would come onto the green.
Wow.
We had it at 3 o'clock, hoping that a lot of older people would come up, just because we wanted to educate them specifically, because I think a lot of younger people see the issues of racism in schools and things. So in that way, I think I think I addressed the right bit, but I don't think there was enough of a crowd to efficiently I guess change the community. But I think really the main part of it is just doing something, even if it's not as powerful as you would expect. I think just going to a protest, having a conversation, having a conversation with your family around the dinner table, it all starts there, and just the small acts against racism that really make a difference.
Southbury is a mainly white town, and though I know it feels like you can't make a difference yet, this is where we have to start. A national difference will only be made when we stop local and slowly build a way up to change.
So, in addressing these problems, I've started being a lot more active on social media with sharing resources and hopefully just starting a conversation on racial injustices and social injustices that have been happening. Having the confidence and the courage to have uncomfortable conversations with friends, even family members, and just people in the community who would like to know more about where I'm coming from as a community member, and on a broader spectrum about these issues. Going to protests and working up to speaking at protests has been a really empowering experience, terrifying, but very empowering. I am Black, and I'm proud to be Black. My life matters, and Black lives matter. We need to do better. Change is necessary. You're beautiful. And it needs to start here in Southbury, in our home, and in our schools. Also talking to local government officials and the school board and school officials in addressing these problems in our schools and hopefully changing the curriculum in our schools to include more education on these social issues and racial issues that exist. Is now a district diversity coordinator, and I have spoken with her about the work that she's going to be doing. My mom is a teacher. She's been in communication with the school administrators and the school board, and to the best of my knowledge, they are working on incorporating more inclusive curriculums. So really, when I was in the school system here, and when I was living here predominantly before leaving for college, I really didn't do anything. It was easier for me to stay quiet and just ignore any comments that were made. Among my peers, it was really normal to use the N-word in almost any scenario, jokingly in songs, and it was a lot easier to brush it off and even to make excuses for people that I call friends and say oh, I don't care. But obviously now I wish I had the confidence and the courage to address those problems as they came.
So I think that one, racism is a very prevalent issue in this community. I think it's a lot of it is people making insensitive comments and not realizing what it means to people. And I think now recently with everything that's going on, racism has been really highlighted because, I mean, from everything at the protest, when you see people from our school driving by and shouting very mean things and sticking their middle finger up and stuff like that, when we're just trying to protest for basic rights, I think that's a very big issue. And also about the mural that we wrote on the school, and a lot of people are against it, the Black Lives Matter mural, and people have threatened to paint over it, which I think is very bad because it's just trying to make people of color feel safe, and I don't understand why people are so against it. But yeah, it's a big issue.
Starting 4th grade, I remember one of the first experiences, we were on the playground talking about boyfriends and girlfriends and who you're gonna marry, and one of my friends was like, oh, you have to match with them, you have to be the same color, and I was like, wait, what? As a little 9-year-old, I was like, wait, I've never heard that before. And then growing up, I struggled a lot with my hair. As you can see, it's very curly, and that was a big thing for me in terms of feeling different and standing out. I had it straight. I started straightening it as a 9-year-old and had it straight from 4th grade all the way up till junior year, and as an attempt to fit in and feel more normal.
We have people speaking every week at the protests, local Southbury residents talking about their experiences, and a lot of it has been in the schools. People have been called the N-word to their face. There's been a lot of microaggressions, and a lot of people say that there isn't a racist problem in Southbury, but just going to these protests and hearing these people, some of them that I've known for many years and have no idea that they've had to go through these things. As a white person, I don't experience them myself, but this has been really eye-opening to what others have to deal with in the same communities that I'm a part of, the same environments, the same school that I went to. Even elementary schoolers coming and saying that they didn't really understand what it meant when these people were saying that they're different. A lot of stories like that are just really changed my perspective on everything.
Actually, when I was a junior, I started wearing my curly hair, and it was something I had to contemplate for weeks on end because I was so scared of finally embracing my natural hair and for fear of being seen as different from my classmates. And so I went to school on a Monday morning with my hair curly for the first time, not straightened, and I remember a couple days later I was sitting in the cafeteria, things had been going good, wearing my natural hair all week, and one of my classmates had come up to me and he said, oh, Lacey, I didn't know how black you were, because there's normal black people and then there's insert N-word, and that was, I think, the first time that I had ever had somebody say something like that to me, right to my face, and I didn't know how to react. I just started crying, and I went to a teacher that I trusted. I told her, she helped me go to the administration, and I think one of the most shocking and disappointing things was to sit down with the administration and sort of follow all the steps that we've been told all throughout school in terms of reporting incidents and not being a bystander and really not having anything happen as a result of the incident other than having to sit down with the person and have them apologize sort of half-heartedly. And so yeah, I feel just feeling like an outsider.
I think just a lot of ignorance, about what colored lives experience just in like everyday occurrences, like people like, watching, black people more closely in grocery stores, or it's like once I went to Danbury and like there was this like black woman and I was talking to her and she was like, oh yeah, everyone like in security here, like they follow me around as if I'm stealing something, but I have way more money than any of them would ever have. It's just like little things like that where people just like assume that like, black people are poor or they're gonna steal something, and just like little instances of racism that really need to be fought.
The social problems around here, they're as cliche as it gets. Hearing the average high schooler throw around slurs, say things that they're not supposed to say. Having adults say things to you, yell things out of their car window. Having grocery store employees walk behind you, making sure you're not stealing anything. Personally, I've had an older couple throw a slur out at me and refusing to sit with me in a church pew. Anything imaginable, really. It's despite the notion that a lot of people have that our town's not racist, it is. It's as racist as any other town in the country.
And even with my sister, I didn't want her to feel like an outsider. She's 4 years younger than me, and I remember her being in kindergarten, and she wanted to have a play date with one of her friends in her kindergarten class, but she came home one day and she told my mom and me, oh, like I want to have a play date with this girl, but her sister doesn't like brown people and she doesn't want me to come to her house. And I feel like that was what made me the most upset at that point, in terms of I hated when it happened to me. I don't want anything to happen to my little sister. I don't want her to feel like an outsider in her community.
I think it's an important issue because, well, one, not that I've had a very terrible experience in this town. I think that it could have been improved. I think that people of color who move to this town or grow up in this town, I think they should have a better experience than I have had. I think that, and we've suggested things to the school district and the principal of ways that they can improve students of color's experience at school. But I think that they should feel more safe and more accepted and welcome.
The biggest problem that I faced is the fact that I have a lot of very conservative friends, and while at a fundamental level I don't believe that anything about the movement should be political, I can see how it gets political. So, people they're saying things, they're visibly upset about the way I've been carrying myself out, but in the end we're all individuals, we all have our own beliefs, so I'm not gonna change who I am just to align my beliefs with other people. Yeah, I don't know. It creates unnecessary animosity, but it is what it is.
I've been posting on social media. My parents, my friends have been posting on social media. Either I do weekly speeches, so those have been posted. Just a flyer that we post every week to advertise the protests. They have gotten crazy, horrible responses on social media, citing that this is a Marxist movement, that I'm a paid activist for this movement, and obviously I'm not. I'm a 19-year-old kid from Southbury. I lived here my whole life. I'm not a Marxist, and it really just only makes our cause stronger, because we see, okay, there's people like this, and we're doing this so that these people can be silenced. And of course, while we're standing there on our street corner, we get a wonderful amount of positive response, but we also get the people that seem things sometimes. But yeah, so we've gotten a lot of positive, but we've also gotten a lot of negative.
There have been a lot of mixed reactions. I have faced a lot of support in talking about these issues, having these conversations, and taking action against social injustice and racial injustice. But I have also faced a lot of people who have opposing beliefs. And I feel like the most challenging part is to maintain my composure when having these conversations with people who share different beliefs and remaining objective on the topic at hand.
There are still people in Southbury that are hating on Black Lives Matter movement. There are people driving by, giving us the finger, shouting Black Lives suck, shouting Trump 2020, and that's why we keep doing it, because until there's no one like that shouting those things at us, then we will continue to do it. And because people have come up to me and they said, thank you for doing this. Thank you for showing that in Southbury that this is a problem, and to amplify our voices, and that's why I do it. Because the hate makes me more passionate, and because the positive feedback has also made me more passionate.
So when I saw the rally going on this past Saturday in the same location that the Black Lives Matter protest has been going on for 12 weeks now, it was honestly shocking and a little bit scary to see the amount of people who were at the event. Who shared those beliefs so strongly, and as well as the amount of community members who showed their support while driving by. It was very scary to hear the words that were being said, and the hate that was being spread. The fact that they felt so strongly against the movement and the work that we are doing was scary.
On May 22nd, we chose to brutally kill 2 people, injure a third, break into a home, steal guns and rifles, kidnap a woman, eventually steal 2 cars, and leave law enforcement on a 6-day, 4-state manhunt. During that time, we witnessed state police on TV begging for him to call them as they wanted a peaceful resolution to them. He was later apprehended, not because he turned himself in. He's detained, and he is currently having his day in court. Now, a second event. George Floyd was a 46-year-old black man that lived in Minnesota. 3 days after Peter started his killing spree, on May 25th, he
Well, I think the root of all these problems started from slavery, and from there it just got worse and worse. We're taught in history about slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, and then from there it kind of stops, and you don't learn the rest of history, what else happened with the Black community. I watched 13th, the documentary, and I learned about the war on drugs, mass incarceration. Those are things I never learned in school, and from there the problems just got worse. The U.S. just continued to push Black people into a corner, and that's why we have it today. That's why people are so racist, and they don't understand their privilege. And I think a big thing that would improve that is just educating people on that. Because for me, I learned so much, and I felt like I had a completely new perspective when I learned about those things.
I directed a documentary recently about African American history from 1619 to the present day. And my main goal in doing that was to kind of give America a better picture of what happened, where these problems started, how did we get to where we are today. My mission is education, trying to help people understand the history of what has happened in this country, how we got to where we are today, and how we need to move forward from here. And I think that that's really the only way to successfully address these problems in the long term. Because there's a quote, when people don't know their history, they're doomed to repeat it. And that's exactly what's happened over and over and over again in this country. We see similar events happening. Normally, there's some kind of great event in the nation that sparks a movement. George Floyd's killing sparked a movement of a lot of Black Lives Matter protests. Emmett Till's murder sparked the civil rights movement. The release of the book Uncle Tom's Cabin sparked the Civil War. Moments happen and history repeats itself over and over and over again. And I think that my main goal is through education to help people understand these patterns and understand why we are where we are today, why people don't have equity in this country, and to help address those issues.
Just a problem with the lack of education on our state's history and our country's history. I worked with Tomas Reyes to create a video that outlined our state's history when it comes to systemic racism.
(1620 through 1630), the Dutch take possession of the Connecticut River. Tribes of the river valley include
Zach actually was the one who thought of making the video. I have nothing to do with that. He just asked me one day if I wanted to help him out. But what inspired me to work with him was his passion, the fact that I know he's a good and smart kid. So everything that he was gonna do, I know was gonna be well made. It wasn't gonna be taken out of context in any way. I trusted him. So yeah, just knowing that he's a good person, I guess, is what inspired me to help out with the video.
2020. About half of the schools in Hartford are still illegally segregated.
I was inspired to make a video for social change because at the moment I was thinking that this is a historical moment. This is a time where you're going to look back and think, what did I do during this time? What could I have done better? And I just thought that I could do something really special here and create something with other people as a collective, a group that's really special and could help change the minds of people on their perception of our state and our country as a whole when it pertains to systemic racism. And hopefully we can accomplish that with our video.
It's hard to say that the video addresses the cause of the problem in its entirety because there's so many different causes. There's not just one, but one of the more major causes is the lack of education. So the whole purpose of the video was obviously to educate. So in that sense, it addresses one of the many facets of the problem, but there's still so much more that needs to be addressed, and there's a lot of different ways to address it. So
I think what's going on is important right now because it's a fairly accurate statement to say that most Americans don't understand the history of racial oppression in this country. They don't understand how far back it goes. They don't see the patterns of what's been happening over and over again, and how problems, while some problems have been addressed and changed, new problems spring up almost just as frequently. When one issue is solved, another one pops up. And I think that because of that, it becomes very difficult for a lot of Americans to empathize with why a lot of African Americans or people of color are struggling right now in this country.
I also think that perspective is a big issue. People who lack it, and they look at this issue as a very surface level thing, and they don't understand what redlining is, what the war on drug did, and what it has caused and is still causing. And I think that's a big issue in why people are racist and have racist views.
I think my main issue is just getting my documentary out there for a wider audience to see. It's being used in a few classrooms in Connecticut as a resource for history, but if it can get out to more and more people, or at least getting the information out, if it inspires somebody else to make a documentary or to research more, and they talk about it to someone else, then that's the main thing that I'd like out of this.
I guess just seeing everything happen, and I felt so useless. Like I felt like I couldn't do anything, and I hate sitting with that. I hate knowing that I have so much privilege and so much, that I have such a big ability to create change. So, starting a protest that felt so empowering because we could finally help in a tiny town like Southbury, and like educating my friends and talking to people. It really, I don't know, I feel like I'm using my privilege for good, which is what everyone should do.
Well, I get really angry, but that's something I'm trying to figure out how to like use for good. But mainly what I do is like I try to make people notice it. I'm like, well, like what are you actually like? Why are you paying like so much more attention to like this black person in the store than like any other person in the store? Like why do you like trying to expose people's like perspectives about them and like to see like the little like bits of like racism in them that they don't actually realize. And then like also just like participating in protests in town and organizing one like a while back. It's just like little things that you can do.
I think again starting the conversation even with your family, because I know that a lot of people who support this issue, their families don't feel the same. I think that actually going to protest if you can, educating others, and again signing petitions, raising awareness. I think those are all things that aren't too difficult to do, that many young people have and can do in the community.
I think also looking or diversifying your Instagram feed is so important. Just like following more activists, especially more black activists.
Silent, how long that takes, how long that really is, how long you have to constantly decide listening to someone calmly tell you, I cannot move.
I'm not doing this for me, I'm doing this for the community, but I think there had to be someone to step up and do this, and I was more than willing, and I'm just working for a cause that I believe in, and I think that's what activism really is about. Have to be active in your community and do something about it. It's one thing to, obviously showing your support for this cause in any way that you can is wonderful. Donating, signing petitions, just educating others. But you should be doing it actively. So it's one thing to post something on social media, but if you are actively going out in your community and rallying or donating or signing petitions and doing your part somehow, I think that's what activism is about.
Students can play a major role because students are the people who learn. And at this time, everyone needs to learn, everyone needs to educate themselves. And usually the best people educating themselves are in fact students. And everyone should always have this student mindset of that they don't know enough, and that they can continue to learn and continue to grow as people and understand the world better as they live their life.
I'm saying that I think diversifying your life, getting perspectives that you weren't before, especially in Southbury, it's a very white town. You don't get a lot of varying perspectives and meet all different types of people, and I think that's very important. I think as people go off to college and move out of this town, I think they should make it an active thing where they try to do that.
I think one way to educate Southbury about what's going on right now is starting in our schools. We need to look at our history classes, see what are we teaching, what are we not talking about, see what classes are being offered, what kind of speakers are we bringing in, what are we doing when we have an issue in our school that deals with race. Are we bringing people in to talk to students about it, to work on it? Are we addressing the issue head on, or are we kind of taking a step back and avoiding it? I think the school's the most important way to make change for the future. And from there, we can also work on a community level to organize events, speakers. It's a little bit difficult now during COVID-19, but in the future, we can bring in people to host events at community locations. We can bring people into Riverview Cinemas, have films addressing this, and then the filmmakers come in for a community discussion. There is a lot we can do as a community to just let our residents in our towns understand more about what's going on. And I think it's really important that we try to go for those things.
Yeah, so young people, I feel like, are really powerful, especially with social media now, in having conversations and spreading awareness and really learning more about things that they might not have learned from home or at school. I feel like this is a really important time right now, and the more that young people get involved, I feel like the better chances we have of working towards a more equitable future.
I think young people have a great opportunity right now, and you don't even have to be over 18 to really start doing it. It can start, well, again, the small things really matter. If you can talk to your principal about putting up posters in your school, if you can organize a small event or something like that, if you can write to your first selectman, your governor, your congressman, the little things of change that you can bring to your own community cause a whole world of difference. Because these issues are not just on a nationwide scale. They're not just on a statewide scale. They are local. We just need to find out how we can address them. And anybody can do that. You can be 10 years old, you can be 70 years old. You can definitely make a difference no matter who you are. And it only takes a few small steps to do so.
There's so many ways to take effective action. It's crazy. Anything that you can think of. For example, Zach making the video, Chloe Williams and Catherine LaBelle leading the first protest in Southbury, it went amazingly. There was a group of girls who painted a mural on a road at the high school, I believe. So, which by the way also came out really, really good. So anything you could think of, honestly, and it doesn't even have to be that public either. Just signing something, sending some petition to a government official, anything you can think of. It'll help and it'll support the movement.
I think there's so many resources out there, and you can, if you don't want to, maybe go out and do a rally, which I perfectly understand. There's a lot of people. To donate, or if you're not in a financial state to donate, sign petitions. There's so many out there, and just to educate yourself. And really, one of the biggest things is to educate the people around you. You have a circle of people in your life, and some of them, might be really passionate about these things. Some of them might not really understand, or some of them might be on the other side. So on the other side, it's hard to, people like to stick to their opinions, but those people in the middle, those are the people that you can inform, and you don't have to, stick your opinions on them, but inform them, this is what's happening, this is what happened so far because of this. You can do with this information as you would like. You can make your own opinions, but this is what is happening, and this is what is happening in America. And also, the biggest thing for anyone 18 or older is to vote. And I really feel so strongly that obviously this problem is not just going to be fixed with a new leader. This is a problem that's been in America, since the beginning, and it's the institutions that have made it this way, and the people within the institutions. But it can start by having a leader who supports the movement instead of fuels the other side. And voting in November is really, it's your civic duty, but it's really, if you really want to get involved and you really want to make change in this world, voting is really, I tell everyone that just please vote.